not American history. 3,000 plus lives lost. 5 years ago, we saw the Benghazi stand down and the treason of Hillary Clinton and the deep state finally turning against her cold-blooded crime machine. And 1 year ago, we saw Hillary Clinton symbolically in New York City on the 15th anniversary fall to the ground. I ought to pull up the MSNBC and CNN clips we've got where they say, Infowars is putting out fake news that she fell down. She only stumbled. Then they'd only show the very first of the clip and not show her falling on her face or being thrown in the back of the black ambulance like is having a convulsion. Well, that is indeed what you just witnessed there. You have Hurricane Irma. We can put that up on screen. And then we have another hurricane, Jose, right behind it. Category 3 out there in the Gulf. Half of Florida is without power. Looting spree. Keys residents seething over roadblocks. Miami Beach residents barred from returning. Tampa largely unscathed. Authorities to pursue felonies for abandoning pets. Alligator wanders downtown streets. Irma ranks 7th storm in U.S. history. Now it's up in northern Florida, up going past Tallahassee into Georgia and Alabama, with another storm right behind it. That said, here's the big news. This news is so big that it's even hard to cover other news before we break it, coming up later in the broadcast with Roger Stone. And much of what Stone has gotten from his sources, very close to the president, can be confirmed separately, but it's just unbelievable. And it's exactly how I would do it if I was them. But he's like Rapunzel up in the tower, and what they're doing to the president while he's in the tower and how they got him into the tower. Guess he doesn't have long enough blonde hair to uses a rope to let folks climb up into the tower is shocking. And it's going to be breaking in the next few days. In fact, the story's been killed at major newspapers on calls from General Kelly. We're going to force it out right now. On the other side of this transmission, this break, I will give you a little bit of a taste of what's coming up, but this is frightening, it's horrifying, it's incredibly dangerous, not just to America, but to the world. You're going to learn about the coup that's almost in place. So much for joining us on this live worldwide Monday edition. It is September 11th, 2017. We're going to be here for the next 4 hours live. And I am going to be hosting the 4th hour today, because Roger Stone is going to be joining us from New York, probably with a special guest, but I'm just going to leave that as a side note, because it is a side note. Direct president and directly from those surrounding him of how he has been isolated and what they're planning to do with the president and the types of things they're saying. The globalists want weak people in the positions of power because they can be controlled as puppets. And the information you're going to be getting, I've separately confirmed from people very close to McMaster, who admits that our sources that are close to McMaster have indeed been putting out accurate information about what he's up to. And Trump has a real soft spot in his mind for the military, and I think that's great for the average service person or veteran. On average, they're hardworking, focused, dedicated people. That's how you call it, 3 a.m. if you need somebody to go help pull your truck out of the ditch or take you to the hospital or whatever, or who you want with you in a fight. But the generals are a whole different kettle of fish, and we've got the full picture on what Kelly's doing as a chief of staff, on what McMaster's doing, and the things they're doing, and the things they're saying about the president and how they're maneuvering to have him removed, and how they're all on incredible power trips, especially McMaster, just trashing the president. Because these are such bootlickers. These are such social climbers. They see the power structures being prepared to remove Trump, and they are just on their bellies. Bellies dragging in front of the power structure, in front of that altar. That's why Bannon had to go. Bannon's honorable. He did a great job. The strategy he pushed is the populist Americana reboot. The globalists want a leftist fake populist movement, in their own words, modeled after Mao Zedong, that will completely overthrow our free market system for the general public. The elite will still be up in their ivory towers. And that's why, even though Bannon's left, you see slimebags like George Clooney, who had everything given to him by his billionaire parents. All the roles he had failed. He was absolutely hated until he was like 40 years old with this ER show. His family spent hundreds of millions putting him in the position he's in. He's a total loser. That's why he's out saying horrible things about Bannon, because he's a nobody. Says he's a failed screenwriter. Well, buddy, you might write screens for little fantasy shows in Hollywood that's failing. They admit Hollywood's collapsing. People are so sick of just empty, low IQ folks that can barely read off a teleprompter. But Bannon comes from blue-collar folks, was in the Navy, became an officer, was successful in banking, successful in brokerage and venture capital, and was successful in Hollywood. The screenplays weren't, but the films they invested in were successful. And it just shows how these losers that have had everything given to them live in this religion that all of us that are self-made, you know, that we're failures and we're jokes. It's not about me. It's not about Stephen Bannon. It's not about Stephen Bannon. It's about how they take somebody they don't like and put a light underneath their head like they did me on NBC with that idiot, Megyn Kelly. It's about how they carry out the anatomy of a fraud. How they soften the lens for Hillary and light her with three-point lighting, but everybody else they manipulate, they cut together. It's the anatomy of a fraud. The anatomy of a joke. The anatomy of a scam. But Bannon, along with Infowars and along with you, helped write the script for the American reboot. And we, collectively, you and I, wrote the talking points that have brought America back from the grave. And we now see the economy turning back on. We now see confidence coming back on. We now see unity coming back together. There's new studies out from major universities, 5 of them I saw last week, going, actually, racial tensions are at an all-time low, people say in surveys. That's why the media is saying it's at all-time bad and pushing it as hard as they can, because they know they're losing control, and that's in the WikiLeaks. So please tell everyone you know to tune in the 4th hour today. I added a 4th hour 5 years ago or so to the broadcast, and a lot of folks think that's just some sideshow. That many times has higher ratings and is on just as many affiliates as average as the 2nd hour is. For some reason, more stations carry the 1st and 2nd than they carry the 3rd and 4th, but overall the 4th hour is a big, important hour. But today, people are going to want to particularly tune in because Roger and I are now willing to just go ahead and spill our guts. Now, we're not going to name sources, but some of the sources we're going to name because they tried to give the information to major newspapers. We're going to name those, and it was killed by Kelly, General Kelly. And so, believe me, General Kelly's getting phone calls right now. They're already figuring out how they're going to handle all this. Blackmail of the president, J. Edgar Hoover style. Even keeping his family away. Yes, his security guy of 30 years, run off, forced to resign by Kelly. That's confirmed. There's been rumors of that. We have the whole story of how it happened, but it gets even worse. Ladies and gentlemen, I was told this by high-level sources, and it was evident, and especially after Reagan was shot in his first year in office, when he was acting like Trump and doing the right things, that he never really recovered. They gave him cold blood and his transfusion that causes brain damage. They slowly gave him small amounts of sedatives. It's known that most presidents end up getting drugged. Small dosages of sedatives till they build it up. Trump's such a bull, he hasn't fully understood it yet. But I've talked to people, multiple ones, and they believe that they are putting a slow sedative that they're building up that's also addictive in his Diet Cokes and in his iced tea, and that the president by 6 or 7 at night is basically slurring his words and is drugged. Now, first they had to isolate him to do that. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, I've talked to people that talk to the president now at 9 at night. He is slurring his words. And I'm going to leave it at that. I've talked to folks that have talked to him directly. So notice, oh, he's mentally ill. Oh, he's got Alzheimer's. They isolate him. Then you start slowly building up the dose. But instead of titrating it like poison, like venom of a cobra or a rattlesnake or a water moccasin, where you build it up slowly so that you get a immunity to it, you're building it slowly so the person doesn't notice it. First, it's almost zero, just a tiny bit, and then a little more. And then your brain subconsciously becomes addicted to it and wants it. And so as the dose gets bigger and bigger, you get more comfortable in it. The president's about 2 months into being covertly drugged. Now, I'm risking my life, by the way, telling you all this. I was physically sick before I went on air because I'm smart. And I don't mean that in a braggadocious way. I mean, I'm not dumb. The information you're going to get today is super dangerous. In fact, I'm tempted just to let it out now so they don't cut the show off or something before this goes out. I mean, this is the kind of thing that gets you killed. So you can see all the scripting. The president had the exact right response to Charlottesville. Both sides are horrible. The white supremacists are horrible. The Antifa with clubs beating people and starting, it's horrible. Funded by George Soros. A month later, 3 weeks later, oh, they're right. We decry Antifa. Because they have to, because they've gotten so vicious, attacking prayer meetings, you name it. He was right. But see, the sluggishness now. He's not burnt out. He's not tired. He loves energy. He loves people. He loved always working 16 hours a day. Suddenly, though, it's not the stress of the job. It's not them, oh, look, he's having mental collapse, so he can't help it. It's that they start drugging these presidents. Remember, George W. Bush was a governor, was well-spoken. I didn't like him. He'd had me arrested before just asking questions at press conferences. But, I mean, I knew him back when my sister went to school with his daughters. I've sat there a couple times at the same table, talked to him. Back before he was even governor, I knew him. The point is that he was sharp and funny. Didn't need a teleprompter. But it's between him on the campaign trail and getting into office, he became a bumbling moron. You could look at him, and I could tell you he was drugged up. And you look at him today, they admit he's on a bunch of psychotropics. And he sits there naked in his bathtub doing those paintings. They drug presidents because the power structure wants a puppet. The president needs his blood tested by an outside physician he trusts. And needs to get his former New York police officer friend and head of security back in. They don't even let Ivanka in to see her dad. And she has to write a report on him when she's done. Everything you're going to get is directly from the president and from other top people, including, it's all coming up, ladies and gentlemen. It's all coming up on 9/11. BP, the carbon taxes on 69% reduction in illegals, on shooting down the DREAM Act, on doing what he said he'd do. and so many other things. $4 trillion in the stock market, hundreds of billions in new jobs, 1.6 million new jobs. The list goes on and on. And the globalists, though, are inverting that and saying we're in a literal hell. And they've got former deputy directors of the FBI, of the CIA, all appointed by Mueller and others, saying we're getting ready to kill the president. That's the confidence they're projecting and swaggering around in a McMaster at dinner with high-level CEOs drunk, drinking $300 bottle Chardonnay on the government payroll, says, that idiot just called me the president, that moron. He doesn't need the codes. I'm pretty much the president. He's a total idiot. He doesn't understand anything over 128 characters, meaning Twitter or whatever. And the people are like, this is shocking. Apologize. These are even Democrats. That's incredible. You just talk like that. These are professional, serious people. And plus, McMaster is just drunk off his mind, just in these fancy restaurants. Just, I'm in command. Here's my girlfriend. And this is who they've put in. I mean, just a megalomaniac. So it is a major fault of judgment of the president that he believed the military would protect him, because the military units that have been involved and some of the private groups that helped get him elected and some of the patriots out there that were behind the scenes helping, the military is his friend. But not the... Everybody that was a patriot wouldn't take the job because they saw what happened to Flynn. So it's really their dereliction of duty, some of the good guys he first asked after Flynn, that we're in this position. Because finally he went to McMaster. McMaster called his handler, Petraeus, and they gave the green light. We should get Steve Pachenik on about this, because I want to brief him on air, maybe at noon if you can do it. He used to run CIA major operations. I want to get him on and just talk about the information I have, because I already have a lot of this myself. And then the new information I got on the phone for 20 minutes with Roger, writing notes this morning, I got a big chill up my spine. And I knew what they did to Reagan. I know what they've done to other leaders before by building up a poison or building up a drug in the body until the person is basically dependent on it and then never even knew it. And that's how they get control of you. Oh, you're feeling bad. Here's more of what you need. That's going on because these people are shooting their mouths off about, yeah, well, soon he's going to be really fatigued. Soon we'll be in full control. Like the penguin or something out of a cartoon. Soon Batman will be poisoned. And it's just they're all up there like a bunch of carrion crows perched up on a tree looking at the country dying, hoping it rots quicker so they can have a bigger meal. So the president's meant well. He's been a good guy. He's tried to deliver. Bannon was there. We've had a good run for 8 months, but just like Bannon said when he left a few weeks ago, this is a whole new president because they've surrounded him. They've encircled him. Oh, and how they did it. How they did it by leaking. Then saying, sir, we've got to have operational control. Get rid of all these other people around you. They'll stop leaking, when they were the very ones that were leaking. Then they just order their command and control system of aides that are around him to stop leaking, because now they've got the president where they want him, isolated. Then they go, sir, this newspaper found out about this woman. And yeah, Trump and Melania are together and everything, and stuff goes on. But Trump's never made any bones about the fact that he likes women. And, I mean, that's they're blackmailing the president. You're going to get it all. You're going to get every bit of it. Look, we've known a lot of this for a while, but you're going to get it all. We're spilling our guts coming up in the 4th hour. Spilling the guts. Spilling the guts. Because it's too dangerous to know any of this. Roger agreed, and my other sources agree. We're going to spill the guts. We've been authorized by sources to name some sources inside the White House Stay with us.
We're on the march. The empire.
Climate change is a fact. And if people can't trust not only the executive branch, but also don't trust Congress and don't trust federal judges, then
what difference at this point does it make?
And the intelligence agencies learned of the plan to make the country poor. And, you know, even the mercenaries and henchmen and the real killers didn't like that plan. And then they learned that there really are pedophile rings running the country. And really one of the unsung heroes in exposing this behind the scenes has been the owner of Blackwater, now XZ, Eric Prince, who gets demonized a lot in the media and who I even went off half-cocked about 10 years ago till I learned all the behind-the-scenes stuff and saw how accurate it was, that those are some of the folks and people that are aware of what's happening and have been trying to recommend to Trump avenues that would actually get him out of the debacle that he's in. But but Blackwater is just a very, very small piece of this. But it was Eric Prince exposing the Jerry Epstein, the sex trafficking of children in and out of the Middle East on Epstein's aircraft with Bill Clinton on board. And Weiner trying to recruit young girls and all the rest of it. I mean, it's just the tip of the iceberg, and it's a nightmare. And Donald Trump really believes in America, really believes in free market, believes in making better deals. He doesn't like that the globalists are out to get the country and want to conquer it by making it poor when they already own it and run it. Trump goes, what's the point in behind-the-scenes conversations if you've got a racehorse to go out there and put it on a truck and send it to be turned into, you know, steaks or something for people in France? Or if you've got a pet dog that's loyal to you, why the hell would you stomp its head in? Not that he's even a saint. He's just like, why would we burn down the country? Why would we sell out to the communist Chinese and Mexico and everywhere else and get rid of prosperity? Trump likes flying over and seeing lots of big houses and swimming pools and everything nice. It's well known. He just can't stand it when he sees poor families and stuff. It's not about PR. He's just grabbing wads of cash out, handing it to them, writing people checks because he likes wealth. He's real hard-nosed with the globalists and groups, and he'll have casinos. If you're dumb enough to go gamble, he'll take your money. But at the same time, he likes prosperity. Just like I don't like going in a restaurant and seeing old ladies not able to buy the food they want in the cafeteria line. The third or fourth time that happened at these cafeterias I like to go to, because some of these cafeterias have pretty good food. I've been going to cafeterias since I was 16 years old by myself, and I never seen old people not able to get the food they needed. I couldn't eat the food anymore. I've walked out of these cafeterias because I don't like standing out or acting like a big saint or something. I start saying, let me get your dinner, and then it turns into a big scene. Well, let me get your food, you know, these old ladies, old black ladies, old white ladies. I just can't stand it. I want to see them get their big plates of food. Instead, they could hardly get anything to eat. Pisses me off. It makes me not feel good about my prosperity because I'm a real liberal. I want freedom. That's what liberal means. It means more books, more freedom, more property, more children, more guns, more life extension, more choices, true diversity, true tolerance. There's nothing tolerant about the globalist. They have some existential wish to dominate and kill the West and kill Western architecture and culture in their own admissions. It's a sick cuckolding. And hey, if some guys get off on 10 other men with their wife, that's their issue. But that's cuckolding. And that's what this is they want to sit here and mutilate our children's minds and mutilate our culture, and then they write essays about how they like it. It's not like I just figured this out. They tell us what they're doing. You know how frustrating it is to be able to read 50,000 if I could Department of Energy reports, government reports about geoengineering and how they're doing it, and there are tens of thousands of reports. It's completely public. It's one of the most studied industries in the world. It's gigantic. And it's all beneath the surface in the national security realm. Talk about discrimination. Forget black, white, or religion, or where you're from. What about an elite of ultra-rich setting up a National Security Act in 1947 to make basically half the government secret and to be able to kill whoever they want and do whatever they want for now almost 70 years? What type of hubris, what type of arrogance, what type of insanity do you think that creates? And then we put a cowboy businessman in there who just doesn't have a giant you-know-what on for America, who associates his success with America. We get a beachhead to try to get new management in, and suddenly everything starts turning around when he just gets a few of the switches back in order. And they are so arrogant, that'll be their downfall, that Hillary thought she'd win, that people would be force-fed her, that McMaster sits around because he's insecure that people don't like him because he's with Trump, so he tells waiters, I hate the president, he's an idiot. I hate the president, he's a moron. The president's an idiot. The president's an idiot. The president's an idiot. The president is an idiot. I go get my hair cut or something, people walk over and don't like me for what I've said. I go, hey, let's have a debate and discussion about that. And pretty soon they're shaking my hand and agreeing with me. I internally know I'm right. I internally know I have the facts. I internally know I'm moving forward. I'm not pig-headed. I'm not bullheaded. I know when I'm right that I've got to continue on. I feel sad for people when they hate me and dump hot coffee on me and cuss at me and say they hope I die and all the rest of it and persecute me. But I know it's because we're going to beat them. I've got to be an example to others no matter what it happens to me. Because here's the deal. If I just live some fat cat life, I'll be empty. And I can project into the future and see humanity doesn't have a destiny if we don't do the right thing now. So I'm very selfish about the human destiny. I am connected to everyone. I am connected to everybody. I know that, but not in some false collectivism where some central group directs the collectivism so they can play God. It always creates a nightmare. I'm a total individualist, but a total collectivist. I am absolutely individual, and I'm giving my will to do the right thing for the collective because I am the collective. People busted their ass before me. They fought. They died. They were virtuous. They were strong. They had will, and I'm carrying it with me right now. They're here with me now, and I will never let them down, and I will never let my children down. That's why I get so mad at myself when I stumble, because it's such an honor to stand against the enemy. And Trump has tasted just a little bit of the spirit, a little bit of this destiny that I know is burning so brightly in your hearts and your minds and your eyes out there in your guts. These evil people only knew what was waiting for them if they would just turn themselves over to God, but it's got to be done through free will. And I am just so blessed that my heart and soul resonates with God and not with the devil. Because, let me tell you, men are always dual. And my evil side's there, and it's big, but it's not anything as big as my good side. But I know my evil side. It's much bigger than most seriously wicked men's. My evil side is about as big and dark and large as anybody's out there. And that's why I know the enemy. But my good side's so much, much bigger than that. And anybody that serves this pure evil is a fool. Most of them do it through fear. You see, the globalists know they're spiritually ugly, that they spiritually stink, that they spiritually are failures. And so if they can force feed ugly architecture, ugly literature, on us, ugly spiritually leaders like Hillary, then it'll just twist and invert justice and right and make us give up internally because our subconscious mind sees a tottering evil politico like Hillary who just acts and behaves physically but also in her works like a classic witch out of The Wizard of Oz. And if that's what we're going to get, Despite her huge train of corruption, it's a giant breaking of our will. That's what this is. And then you understand why they want to mount our head politically on the wall, because it's a breaking of our will. See, they don't want to fully destroy your free will. They want to trick you into giving your will over to them. But to do that, they've got to break your will. You understand that? This is a force of wills. And as the enemy pushes their will against us, can you not feel your will getting stronger? No matter how many horsepower the devil gives them, God's going to give us even more horsepower. And that's why the enemy is just, they don't know what to do. They're throwing everything they've got at humanity right now. The chemicals, the biologicals, they know it's getting them too. People say, well, how does the elite do all this to get away with it? They don't get away from it. That's why most of their own people are starting to give up. They're going, this is crazy. I don't want to be part of this. And they're like, oh, yeah? We're going all the way. It's metaphysical. When the emperor, the Illuminati's telling you right there, is sitting there frying Mace Windu with the electricity, it's bouncing back on him as well, frying him. But he wants the power so much, he's willing to cook his own self to get the power. Unlimited power! It's a joke. You understand that? These people are fried. They fried themselves. They turned themselves over, and they fried themselves. The dark force is done with them. All they are is a husk. All they are is an empty vessel, an automaton, a biological android, a avatar. Their will turned into a tool of the force of evil in the universe. So we're going to cover a lot of news, got a lot of clips, got a lot to cover. Quite frankly, just the time's ticking down to when we're going to give you the full data dump. I told Roger this morning, from my sources, his sources, and other sources, and I've gotten a lot of this directly from Cernovich, and believe me, Cernovich has got the sources in the White House, or did. Everything in the fight now turns to midterm elections. I knew 2 weeks ago what Bannon was going to do with these big announcements, what we're going to do. Bannon's the real deal. And none of us should fight over who's the leader in this. It's like, who's the leader marching up first to the gallows individually? But I get competitiveness in men. That's part of what makes a man successful. But at this level, it's not about that. It's about the competitiveness of our energy and our will with God filling our sails with his will against the enemy. It's about ramming speed. It's about understanding how important this is. Look at this article. Now I'm going to skip this break. If you want to know the enemy, listen to how religious this is by Charles M. Blow. Joe Blow. Soul survival in Trump's hell. You see America waking up. You see the ratings going back up of the dead media. It's still, they're still dead, but it's a big dead cat bounce. Interest again. So physically, their coffers are full again. Physically, they're doing better. Physically, the economy's better. Physically, there's more optimism. Physically, all the real numbers show we're coming together. But they, the elite, are going to now tell you it's hell. Because listen to how they talk about how it makes them feel that Trump's there because, see, he's not anti-Christian. And he's not anti-white. And again, it's not the minorities that are pushing this race-based system. It's the controllers. Soul survival in Trump's hell. And then look at these articles. Bitter Hillary, Trump won because he comforted millions of white people. And, you know, that's one of the few truthful things she said. It's not that they were racist. They were told how they were racist. They were told how they were evil, even though a lot of them, it turned out, had voted for Obama, and they were had grown up guilty that they were white. And then even though they did everything they could to not, doesn't need us. Bill Joy. owner of Sun Microsystems, said, no, we're going to just have entertainment toys, free money, all this stuff, but you'll culturally have to do what they say, and they're going to phase out humans once we're just don't even know how to do anything. We'll just be playing video games all day and then wonder why we get cancer at 20. And it's because you get your money allotment as long as you take the vaccines and everything. And then under the eugenics, if you fight and say no and can figure out how to live out in the country, they even say this in their actuaries, that they'll let everybody live in the country that live like Amish, because they say that's some balance. You'll have the elites with their spaceships, life extension, and then there'll be a vestigial humanity that lives out in the woods, and then there'll be everybody else being phased out and killed, and they all say it and put out white papers, and I'm just sitting here with even people that have been my friends for years going, oh, Alex is a little radical. You know why they say that? Because they're scared deep inside. They don't want to admit all this is true. They don't want to admit everything we talk about keeps coming true. They're now admitting the geoengineering. And now they admit most of the people you're talking to on Facebook and Twitter are bots. They're not even real. But they're there to make you socially feel like. It was just 3 years ago they said the CIA is going to start having computers write articles. They were already doing it. And then back before we turned it over to Discus, so I would have the Secret Service showing up here all the time. People made death threats on my comment section on Infowars or Prison Planet. Secret Service probably came around, I don't know, 9, 10 times. I turned it over to an outside group to have the comments, but before we did that, we would go look at the IP addresses. There'd be a guy going, I'm going to kill you white people, and then I'm going to kill you black people, and all this other stuff in there. And then we go look at the IP addresses, and it was the same person. They weren't even hiding it. And we turned it was a bot. We go, wait, that guy's posting in 10 articles per 10 seconds. A person can't do that. It's some government bot in there saying, I'm going to kill the white people. I'm going to kill the black people. I mean, that's sick. And we just sit here bombarded by this programming. And then you've got all these weak-minded people out there that believe it and believe there's this big mega crisis. And they believe that Donald Trump did it. But you look at what he actually did economically, he helped them already. Culturally, he helped them, but they don't even know. They just know that they were given worthless college degrees. And now they think the system that hasn't been delivering to them isn't delivering because it didn't get big enough, and they were going to get paid off soon. They just needed to, stay in the Ponzi scheme long enough, and then now Trump's trying to scuttle the whole Ponzi scheme, and what are they going to do? Because he's the one that caused the problem. He's the reason they've got student debts. He's the reason all this is happening. It's all his fault. And maybe they would just have some power if he fell. Yeah. The elite's going to give you something just as soon as you tear down that guy they're mad at. And what do they want? They want a guaranteed wage, whether you work or not. And they're thinking, this is great. Hey, there's all those rich guys with yachts. I want that. It's the rich guys that yachts that came up with the money that's going to socially engineer you and make you a slave. And as soon as you get the $1,000 a month or whatever, it's not going to be enough. It never is going to be enough. It's going to cause inflation. Then you're going to want more. And they'll have lotteries. Well, then not everybody can be on the Enviro yacht, but one of you did win the lottery to go to the Enviro yacht. I mean, you can see the whole thing. And then it all becomes playing video games all day to try to get to go be with the famous cool people. And it's just all mind control. And it's all set up while the elites move to these armored reservations, testing for life extension and merger with machines, totally greedily trying to steal the future, and playing God. You read this article, Soul Survival in Trump's Hell. You could stay in hell for a little while if you knew that you were going to get out. My mother always told me that when I was going through something tough and dispiriting, it's dispiriting. Yes, it's hurting their spirit. It was her way of saying that trouble doesn't last forever. Yeah, that's right. The death struggle of humanity, fighting back against this parasitic takeover. It won't last. They're not going to struggle forever. Mama Spider says you're already tied up. Okay, the venom makes you feel good, doesn't it? You're already tied up. You just stay right there. You just stay right where you're at, and soon you'll hear them stop fighting. I know the voices of your brethren fighting, and their shouts and their roars kind of make you wake up and think you might want to join them. No, 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 I know you're scared. My mother always told me that when I was going through something tough and dispiriting, it was her way of saying that trouble doesn't last forever, that even in your darkest place, hold fast to the hope and the light, that though today you are in the valley, tomorrow you shall scale the peak. Yes, you'll be in charge on top of the hill soon enough, when you're actually going down the hill with the globalists. Well, Mama, Spider, this is hell, indeed. Donald Trump's America in the ninth circle. Ooh, Dante, you're so literary. And while I know that his president is limited to 2 terms, and I highly doubt that Trump could be reelected to a 2nd term and think that Robert Mueller's investigation may curtail the 1st, I am still struggling to maintain optimism and perseverance. I don't think that there is even a matter of fatigue, but rather of the capability of rage and the capacity of rage and the length of mourning. Hopelessness is a very human response when the feeling of persecution intersects with the feelings of powerlessness. You were already helpless. You were under the system. You're projecting your narcissistic rage onto Trump. By every scientific and economic metric, he's bringing hope and prosperity. They've been cutting the prosperity off and siphoning it to build their world government. But you can't admit it. Then it goes on. I mean, it's a religion to these people, but they're not in power. They're just the little mentally ill cogs that existentially are upset at Trump because it's not Trump. Trump is a surfer on the wave that is the spirit of the awakening giant. As we throw off the parasites, the enemy feels it. We'll be back. Spread the word. Be part of the transmission.
You are listening to GCN. Visit GCN.
They're not feeling